My name is Rachel Carter. I'm 35 years old, and I live in a quiet corner of Minneapolis where the neighbors still wave when they walk their dogs. I run a small branding agency that works mostly with real estate firms, helping them build websites, shape their image, find the words that make people care. It was a Saturday morning in late June, and the sun had barely settled into the sky when I opened my closet and pulled out the navy blue gown I'd picked weeks ago. It hung there like hope, soft and simple, with delicate embroidery along the sleeves that caught the morning light. I'd tried it on at least a dozen times, always picturing what it might feel like to finally walk into a family event not as an afterthought, but as someone who belonged. The apartment smelled like clean linen and cinnamon coffee. I moved through the space slowly, letting the anticipation unfold. On the table by the door sat a silver gift box tied with cream ribbon, the customized decanter set I'd ordered the same night I received the invitation. When that envelope arrived, thick and elegant, I held it like it might disappear. My brother Max, his fiancée, Allison, their wedding, and my name right there, spelled correctly, with my address and everything. It felt unreal, after all these years of being left out, of finding out about holidays from Facebook photos or hearing secondhand that someone had graduated or had a baby. But this time was different. They had invited me. I had the card to prove it, printed in gold ink and listing June 24th as the ceremony date. I had reread it at least 20 times, afraid I'd imagined it, afraid they'd change their minds. For the first time in what felt like forever, I let myself believe that maybe they'd seen me. Maybe they realized I wasn't just the quiet one in the background. Maybe, after all this time, I mattered. I had my nails done, made an appointment for my hair, and even splurged on a new pair of shoes. I told myself it wasn't about showing off. It was about showing up. I wanted to be part of it, not just physically, but emotionally, fully present. That morning, I moved with a calm I hadn't felt in years. No nervous energy, no overthinking, just quiet excitement humming under my skin, like something sacred was about to happen. As I poured a second cup of coffee and looked out over the little park across from my apartment, I thought about what it would mean to walk into that venue and see my name on the seating chart, what it would feel like to toast to my brother's new life and be part of it, truly part of it, not just tolerated, but welcomed. It wasn't about the wedding, not really. It was about being remembered. It was about being invited, not because they had to, but because they chose to. And even though a small voice inside me whispered caution, I ignored it. I wanted this moment. I needed it. Because for the first time in years, I had hope, and I was ready to believe in it. I was the middle child in a family of 3. Max was the oldest, the achiever, the one who won trophies and gave speeches. Lily was the youngest, the sweet surprise everyone doted on. And me, I was the one in between. Not the first, not the last. Just there. Growing up in our split-level house in St. Paul, I learned early how to stay useful. I packed lunches when my mom forgot. I helped Lily with her school projects when Max was too busy. I learned how to make myself small and helpful, hoping that one day they'd look up and really see me. I remember the Christmas when everyone got matching red sweaters with our names embroidered in white thread. Mine was green, and the tag still had the store barcode on it. I smiled anyway, pulling it on while they took pictures without noticing. I told myself maybe red had run out, maybe green was fine. When I turned 16, I waited for hours at the dinner table. My mom said they had a work emergency and would do something special the next day. That next day never came. I got a text that said, "Happy belated." And that was it. No cake, no candles, just silence. At school, I kept my head down. I wasn't popular, but I was kind. People liked me, though they didn't always remember my name. I was the type who stayed after class to help clean up, who showed up when someone needed a ride. But I was never the person someone called first. My report cards were good, not great. My friends came and went. I didn't make waves. And maybe that's why I disappeared even in a crowded room. Max once told me I was like background music nice to have, but not something anyone really noticed. He didn't mean it to hurt, but it did. Family dinners were the same rhythm every week. Max shared big updates. Lily got complimented for her art, her outfits, her everything. I passed the potatoes and listened. I was thanked for clearing the table, but no one asked how school was, or if I had dreams beyond helping everyone else with theirs. I used to think it was just timing, that maybe the middle child always got less. But the truth was, no one ever made space for me to shine, and after a while, I stopped trying. I told myself it was okay. That being dependable was enough. But sometimes, late at night, I'd lie awake and wonder what it would feel like to be the one someone waited up for, the one someone planned around, the one who mattered just because she was there. Being invisible doesn't hurt all at once. It builds quietly, year after year, until you start to believe that your silence is your identity. And the saddest part is, after a while, you forget how to ask for anything more. After high school, I moved out at 19 with 2 suitcases and a part-time job at a print shop. I shared a studio apartment with peeling paint and a view of the alley, but it was mine. No one noticed I was gone, and maybe that made starting over a little easier. I put myself through community college, then landed a job doing digital content for a local real estate team. I learned fast, worked hard, and built relationships that mattered. Over time, I got better at branding, design, and strategy. People started trusting me with their businesses, and that trust turned into contracts. By 28, I'd launched my own agency. I didn't announce it to the family. I didn't send a group email or post anything on social media. I just got to work. I helped small firms grow their online presence, taught agents how to connect with buyers, and brought quiet polish to businesses most people overlooked. I reinvested every dollar I didn't need, bought a duplex with a friend, flipped it, then bought a triplex. By the time I turned 33, I owned part of a commercial building near downtown and had tenants in 3 residential properties. I was stable, more than stable. I was thriving. And still, no one asked. My parents once joked that I must be living on frozen pizza and freelance gigs. Max assumed I did something vague with websites. Lily thought I worked at a call center. I never corrected them. I didn't see the point. They'd ask for help sometimes, rent money, design work, website edits. I always said yes. I helped without expecting anything in return. Not because I wanted praise, but because I thought maybe deep down, kindness would be enough to earn my place. Maybe they'd see my worth if I gave without complaint. But that moment never came. Holidays passed without invitations, birthdays without messages. Their lives moved forward with group photos and inside jokes that never included me. I became the helper in the shadows, silent, steady, forgettable. Still, I kept going. My life wasn't flashy, but it was mine. I paid every bill myself. I chose who I spent time with. I donated quietly to food drives and women's shelters. I worked late and slept peacefully. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. I was just building something that felt whole. Success, I learned, doesn't always look like applause. Sometimes, it's a calm morning in a home you bought yourself, a bank balance you earned without shortcuts, a reputation for showing up, even when no one's watching. And sometimes, that has to be enough. It came on a Thursday afternoon, tucked between utility bills and grocery coupons. A thick envelope with gold foil edging, addressed to me in handwriting that looked almost too perfect to be real. My hands trembled as I opened it, afraid that somehow it wasn't what I thought. Inside was the wedding invitation. Max and Allison. The ceremony was listed for June 24th with a black tie reception to follow. My name wasn't misspelled. My address was right. It was official. I had been invited. I just stood there in the hallway, holding the card like it might vanish. For a few seconds, the world stilled. All I could think was, maybe this is it. Maybe they finally want me there. I sat down at the kitchen counter and read every word again. Twice. It didn't feel real. After years of missed holidays, forgotten birthdays, and being excluded from every family gathering, this felt like sunlight cracking through a door I thought would never open. I cried, not because I was sad, but because I felt seen. For the first time in so long, someone had made space for me. It wasn't just an invitation to a wedding. It felt like an invitation back into the family. I wanted to show up right, not flashy, but beautiful in a way that said I had never disappeared. I picked out a navy gown with soft sleeves and delicate stitching around the neckline. It made me feel elegant and grounded at the same time. I found a crystal decanter set and had it engraved with their initials, along with the wedding date. I chose a card with gold trim and wrote a message from the heart, wishing them joy, partnership, and strength. I booked an appointment to have my hair styled and my nails done. I even scheduled a facial, which I never did. Every detail mattered because I believed this moment mattered. This wasn't just another wedding. It was my brother's wedding, and I was finally going to be there. I imagined the scene more times than I can count. Walking into the venue, hugging people I hadn't seen in years, sitting at a table, raising a glass, watching Max smile from across the room. Maybe we'd talk. Maybe he'd introduce me to his friends. Maybe I'd stop being the shadow and start being his sister again. It was easy to believe, and I let myself believe it completely, because hope, when it shows up looking that beautiful, is hard to resist. It wraps around you softly, like maybe this time things will be different. And for a while, I lived in that glow. I stood in Aunt June's living room with the gift still in my hands. She had invited me over for coffee before the big day, or at least that's what I thought. I smiled and said I couldn't wait for tomorrow, but something in her eyes didn't match mine. She hesitated before asking if I wanted something to drink. I said yes, thinking the strange silence between us was just nerves. While she stepped into the kitchen, I noticed a photo album open on the coffee table. It was one of those oversized books with thick pages and glossy prints. I leaned closer, flipping the next page out of habit, and the breath just left my body. There was Max, beaming in a dark tux, Allison in her gown, radiant beneath strings of white lights. My parents were there, standing beside them, smiling like it was the happiest day of their lives. So were our cousins, old family friends, even distant relatives I hadn't seen in years. Every page was filled with celebration, with joy, with everyone. Everyone but me. June returned, holding 2 mugs. She stopped cold when she saw what I was looking at. I didn't say anything at first. I just kept staring at the photos, hoping I was wrong, hoping there was some explanation that didn't feel like a knife. The wedding was last weekend. That's what she said, voice soft and trembling. I looked at her, my hands gripping the edge of the album, but the invitation. I whispered the words more than I spoke them. It said June 24th. She nodded slowly. They gave you the wrong date, on purpose. For a moment, I couldn't hear. The sound in the room disappeared. My thoughts just stopped. And in that quiet, the truth settled in my chest like a weight too heavy to lift. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't bad timing. It was intentional. They hadn't just forgotten me. They had erased me on purpose. I drove straight to my parents' house, the wedding gift still in the back seat. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I knew I couldn't sit with that kind of silence inside me. I needed to hear them say it. I needed them to tell me, to my face, why they had done it. The door was open when I arrived. Laughter spilled from the living room. My father, my mother, Max, and Allison were gathered around a stack of wedding photos, coffee cups in hand. When they saw me, the room shifted. The air tightened. The laughter died. My mother blinked first. Her voice barely held shape when she asked what I was doing there. I looked at Max. I didn't blink. The wedding was last weekend, I said. His shoulders straightened, but his eyes didn't meet mine. My mother stepped forward, arms crossed. Yes, she said. It was a small ceremony. I swallowed hard. I got the invitation. The date was wrong. It said June 24th. Max sighed like this conversation bored him. We never meant for you to come, he said. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. The words didn't hit me all at once. They sank in slowly, like cold water rising around my chest. My hands started shaking. I looked at my father. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. My mother spoke instead. We just didn't want any tension. We thought it was better this way. Better how? I asked. Better by pretending I don't exist. Max stood, his face was calm, like he was explaining a business decision. You make people uncomfortable, Rachel. You're always watching, always quiet. It's unsettling. I just wanted one day to feel normal. One day without your presence in the background. My voice cracked when I tried to respond. I turned to my mother. Her eyes were hard. "You've always been the difficult one," she said, present, but never really part of us, like a ghost who wouldn't leave. My father tried to soften it. He said they just didn't want to stir anything up, that the wedding was supposed to be peaceful. I felt something break in me, quiet and clean. "You disrupted the peace," my mother added, "by always needing to be included." "Take the hint," Max said. "We don't want you." My knees nearly gave out, but I stayed standing. I looked around that room. I saw the faces I had once loved, once longed for. They were strangers now, cold, unmoved. "I see," I said. Then I turned and left. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just walked out of their house like I had never belonged there in the first place. I called Aunt June the moment I got back to my car. My voice shook as I said thank you. She didn't ask what happened. She already knew. She told me she was proud of me, not for walking away, not for being strong, but for always trying to love people who didn't know how to love back. She said that kind of heart was rare and exhausting. She reminded me of all the Sundays we spent on the phone, how she always called on my birthday, even when no one else remembered, how she never asked me to prove myself. She just listened, asked real questions, gave real warmth. I never realized how much I needed those calls until now, how much her small gestures held me together. She was the only one who ever looked at me like I was whole, not broken or extra or invisible. She said I didn't need their validation. That love built on conditions isn't really love. She told me I was enough before I ever tried to earn it. I sat in the parking lot outside a grocery store, listening to her voice steady me. For the first time in days, I felt something uncoil in my chest, like I could breathe again. She warned me not to go back to them looking for closure, said closure doesn't come from people who never gave you truth in the first place. It comes when you stop begging for answers and start choosing peace. That hit hard, because for so long, I thought if I just stayed kind enough, quiet enough, helpful enough, they'd let me in. That one day, they'd say sorry, that they'd look up and finally see me. But maybe that day was never meant to come, and maybe that's not where healing lives anyway. She told me I didn't have to keep setting myself on fire to keep their version of family warm. I could build something better, softer, just mine. When I hung up, the silence didn't feel empty. It felt clean. I looked out at the city, at people going about their days, and I thought, maybe this is where the story starts to turn. Not with revenge, but with release. That night, I didn't cry. I made tea, lit a candle, sat by the window. I was still heartbroken, but I wasn't broken. Not really. I was still here. And maybe that meant something. Maybe it meant everything. The cottage sat by a quiet lake just outside of town, surrounded by pine trees and years of layered memory. Everyone in the family believed it belonged to my parents, passed down from my grandparents, protected like some sacred legacy. But the truth was different. Years ago, when they were behind on payments and facing foreclosure, I stepped in. I created an LLC through my business, met with a lawyer, and purchased my mother's share through a private agreement. I never told anyone. I didn't want credit. I just didn't want them to lose their home. I paid the taxes under an anonymous grant, funded roof repairs through my company, and quietly made sure the utilities stayed on. They never asked questions. They just assumed luck had turned. I told myself it was love, that it didn't matter if they knew. But sitting alone in my apartment after everything that happened, that story stopped making sense. I had been helping people who never once wondered how I was doing, who never said thank you, who erased me without blinking. So I called Susan, my attorney. I told her everything, every transfer, every hidden record, every dime. She was calm and efficient. We started the process. Terminate the financial support. Freeze all related accounts. Prepare the legal steps to end this chapter. It wasn't revenge. It wasn't even anger. It was clarity. I had spent too many years giving quietly in hopes that love might finally be returned. Now I was done waiting. We filed a temporary restraining order to keep them from contacting me directly. I ended all maintenance support on the property. My property manager notified them that all services were suspended. I didn't make a scene. I didn't even call them. I just stepped away. It's a strange kind of peace when you stop holding a door open for people who never meant to walk through. I didn't feel victorious. I felt still, and that stillness felt like mine. The cottage had once been a symbol of everything I longed for: family, belonging. Now, it was just real estate, and for the first time, I could see it clearly. No illusions, no memories, just walls I had paid to protect, for people who had never protected me. Letting go wasn't loud, it was quiet, it was paperwork, a signature, a breath, and then it was done. We pulled into the gravel driveway just after 10 on a Monday morning. I sat in the back seat, silent, watching the outline of the cottage grow larger through the windshield. Susan was beside me, calm and prepared. Michael, our second attorney, was up front with the sheriff. The air was cool, the sky a soft gray that matched how I felt. Clear, still. The front door opened slowly before we reached the porch. My father stepped out. He looked older than I remembered. His eyes were puffy, his shirt unbuttoned at the collar like he had dressed in a hurry. He saw me and tried to smile. I didn't respond. I nodded to Michael, who stepped forward and handed him the envelope. Legal notice. 30 days to vacate. Return the keys. He stared at the paper like he didn't understand the words. But this is our home, he said. I met his eyes. It was, now it's mine. My mother appeared behind him, lips pressed tight, eyes wide with disbelief. You're evicting us after everything we've done for you. I didn't flinch. I looked at her and said what I had rehearsed in my head 100 times. I helped you because I thought love had to be earned, that if I gave enough, you'd finally see me. But now, I choose me. Her face crumbled, but I didn't feel guilt, not anymore. I had carried their silence long enough, their shame, their dismissal. Today, I let it go. They said they had nowhere to go. I told them to try Max. They said they couldn't believe I'd do this. I said I couldn't believe it took me this long. The sheriff stood back, watching but silent. Michael thanked them for their time and reminded them of the legal deadlines. Susan placed one more copy of the document on the step. Then we left. I didn't look back. Not when the car pulled out of the driveway. Not when we turned back onto the main road. I kept my eyes forward. Because that wasn't home. Not anymore. It was just a house, and I wasn't the ghost in their story anymore. I was the one who walked away. It had been 3 months since I handed them the eviction notice. The locks had been changed. The property sold. I had moved on quietly, investing in a new project, taking early morning walks by the lake, answering emails without weight on my chest. I didn't think about them much, not in anger, not in longing, just silence where the ache used to live. Then one afternoon, the front desk at my office buzzed. There's a couple in the lobby, they said. They say they're your parents. My stomach didn't drop. My hands didn't shake. I just said I'd be down in 5 minutes. I stepped into the elevator alone. The soft hum of it rising through the floors gave me time to breathe. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't hopeful. I just felt ready. The doors opened, and there they were, standing in the middle of the lobby, smaller than I remembered, older, worn, my father's shoulders hunched, my mother's coat too thin for the weather, her wedding ring gone, his shoes worn down at the toes. They didn't speak at first, just looked at me like maybe they couldn't believe I had really come. I stood still, waiting. My mother finally stepped forward. Her voice trembled as she said they had nowhere to go, that after the eviction, they had tried to rent a place but couldn't afford it. The car broke down. They were living in a motel, just barely. I didn't respond, not right away. I let the weight of her words settle in the space between us. They had gone to Max, but he couldn't help or wouldn't. The words blurred together, not in meaning, but in repetition. They had nothing left. My father's voice cracked as he told me I'd always been so capable, so steady, that they needed help, just for now, just until things got better. My mother said I was still their daughter, that family doesn't turn its back, that she knew I still cared. Her eyes were glassy, her voice small. I looked at them. I saw the years of silence, the birthdays missed, the lies, the laughter that died the moment I walked into rooms. I saw the empty place they had made for me all my life, and I saw that it no longer had power over me. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I wasn't here for closure, I already had it. I told them I had helped, because I once believed I had to earn love, that if I gave enough, they would see me. But now I knew better. Love is not a test. It's not something you have to chase down and beg for. It either lives in the room or it doesn't. They looked broken. I understood that. But I wouldn't break with them, not again. I said I wished them peace, that I hoped they found the help they needed, but it wouldn't come from me. My mother tried one last time. Can't we put the past behind us? I looked past them, through the glass windows, at the early autumn leaves falling slowly to the ground. It's not about the past, I said. It's about who I am now, and who you chose not to know. Then I turned, pressed the elevator button, and stepped back into the life I had built without them. I live in a small house by the lake now. It's nothing extravagant, just 2 bedrooms and wide windows that let the morning light in. I wake up early most days, make my coffee, and sit by the window while the sky slowly turns gold. There's no noise here, just birds, wind, and the quiet hum of the world going on without pressure. I don't miss the old life, not the version where I waited for invitations that never came. Every Sunday, I still talk to Aunt June. She asks about my garden, I ask about her knitting. Sometimes we don't say much at all, but it's real, and that's enough. I spend my days doing work I enjoy, helping small businesses tell their stories. I walk by the water in the evenings. I read books I never had time for. I laugh more than I used to. There are moments when old thoughts creep in. Birthdays, holidays. The way people used to look through me. But they pass, like clouds. They don't stay long. I no longer need their forgiveness. I don't need a scene where they fall to their knees and say sorry. I don't need to be pulled back in. Because I've already forgiven myself. For staying too long. For hoping too hard. For thinking I had to earn something that was never mine to win. Now, I just live, quietly, fully, and that's the story I choose to tell. The one where I wasn't the problem. The one where I didn't need a seat at their table. Because I've built my own, and here, I belong. If you've ever been left out of the photo, the call, the family group chat. If you've ever stood outside a room that should have been yours, wondering why no one noticed, I want you to know, you are not the problem. You are not too much. You are not too quiet. You are not too strange, or too serious, or too distant. You were simply surrounded by people who didn't understand how to love what they didn't take time to know. That doesn't mean your value disappears. It doesn't mean you don't matter. It means their vision was small. It means they missed out. I know what it feels like to shrink yourself to fit into a version of belonging someone else built. To pretend it doesn't hurt when they forget you, again. To dress up pain as patience. But there comes a day when you look around and realize you don't have to wait for a seat. You can build your own table. You can choose peace over approval. You don't need their permission to exist fully. You don't need to win their love. You already have something stronger, yourself. And if no one ever told you this before, let me be the first. You deserve joy that isn't earned through suffering. You deserve love that doesn't ask you to prove anything. You deserve to be seen without having to wave your arms in the air. I'm still learning what that looks like, but every morning, I feel a little lighter, and every night, I rest without wondering who forgot me this time. So if this story touched something deep in you, let it stay. Let it be a reminder that quiet strength is still strength, that soft people can still walk away, that sometimes healing doesn't come with a bang, just a breath, just enough. And if you're ready, share this story, not for me, but for the part of you that has waited long enough.